Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Bola Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Bola Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Nitai Gauranga Jaya Nitai Gaurango Nitai Gauranga Jaya Gaura Nitai Gauranga Jaya Gaura Hare Nitai Gauranga Jai Sachinandana Jai Sachinandana Jai Sachinandana Gaura Hare Gora 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 Re Gora 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 Re Gora 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 Re Gora 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 Re Pateta Pavana Gora Hare Pateta Pavana Gora Hare Pateta Jai Jagannath Jai Jagannath Jai Jagannath Swami Jai Jagannath Jai Jagannath Swami Jai Baladeva Jai Subhadra Jai Baladeva Jai Subhadra Jai Jagannath Swami Nayana Patagami Bhavatu Me Jagannath Swami Nayana Jagannath Swami Nayana Patagami Bhavatu Me Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Jaya Nitai Gaura Sundar Jaya Nitai Gaura Sundar Nitai Gaura Sundar Jaya Nitai Gaura Sundar Jaya Nitai Gaura जय राधा माधव राधा माधव राधे जय गिरि गोवर्धन गिरि गोवर्धन गिरि गोवर्धन जय गिरि गोवर्धन गिरि गोवर्धन नित्य गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल नित्य गौर हरि नित्य गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल नित्य गौर हरि बोल जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय 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 गौर प्रेमानंदे हरे हरे बोल
जय ओम विष्णुपद परमहंस जगाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्री श्रीमद श्री अभय चरणानंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी महाराज श्री प्रभुपाद की जय अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय नामाचार्य श्री ठाकुर हरिदास की जय प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंद राधा कुंद गिरि गोवर्धन की जय वृंदावन धाम की जय नवद्वीप मायापुर धाम की जय भक्ति देवी की जय तुलसी रानी की जय समवेत भक्त वृंद की जय श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय ग्रंथराज श्रीमद्भागवतम की जय इस्कॉन विधि संस्थापक आचार्य श्री प्रभुपाद की जय गौ प्रेमानंदे all glories to the assembled devotees all glories to the assembled devotees all glories to the assembled devotees all glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga Jai Shri Prabhupada
Namaste Narasingaya Peladila Dadaine Hiranyakashipu Raksha Shiragangana Kalaye Ito Nashima Pato Ito Nashima Yato Yato Yamitato Nashima Narasimha Vadim Sararam Prapade Kava Kara Kamala Varenaka Adabodha Singha Dalita Yanakashipu Tanubringa Keshavadita Dharani Rupa Jai Jagadisha Re Jai Jagadisha Re Jai Jagadisha Re Jayo Narsimhadev, Jayo Narsimhadev, Jayo Narsimhadev, Jayo Narsimhadev. Jayo Prahlad Maharaj, Jayo Prahlad Maharaj, Jayo Prahlad Maharaj, Jayo Prahlad Maharaj. Jayo Prabhupada, Jayo Prabhupada, Jayo Prabhupada, Jayo Prabhupada. Jayo Guru Deva, Jayo Guru Deva, Jayo Guru Deva, Jayo Guru Deva. Nitya Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitya Gaura Hari Bol, Nitya Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitya Gaura Hari Bol. Nrsimhadev Bhagwan ki jai, Bhakta Prahlad Maharaj ki jai.
Hare Krishna. So first of all, we would like to really appreciate the devotees who decorated the deities today. The deities look amazing, beautiful, out of this world. Haribol. And I'll let the kids walk out. Okay. So we have a glorious week ready, upcoming, starting Wednesday. We are celebrating the 50th anniversary of our Jagannath deities, as you all are aware. So we're starting Wednesday with the Rath Yatra at our farm in Frederick. So if we have posted it on the group. If you don't have that information, you can talk to Adukshara Prabhu, who's outside. But we have festivities starting Wednesday and all the way to Sunday, celebrating the 50th anniversary of our Jagannath deities. And if you're interested in supporting our temple, supporting for those yatra, for those festivities, you can talk to Adukshara Prabhu. He's sitting outside. There are a lot of opportunities where you can support and be a part of this festivity. Okay, this was it. And all can come forward a bit. We're expecting some more devotees. What time to what time? On Wednesday, the Rath Yatra starts at 6 in the evening at the farm. Yes, on Wednesday, the activities are all on the farm. Yes, there will be prasadam at the end. Around 8 o'clock. Yeah. But yeah, all that has been posted on the WhatsApp group. And if you don't have that information, we can give you more once you come out. Adukshara Prabhu will have that information. Okay, so with that, I would like to invite our speaker for today, His Grace Mukundatta Prabhu. Mukundatta Prabhu is a disciple of Srila Prabhupada. As you all know, his Prabhupada is sitting in the back on this ornate seat. So he's a disciple of Srila Prabhupada. He joined ISKCON at the age of 15. And he was telling us yesterday that how when he has read many versions of Bhagavad Gita by the age of 15. And when he saw Bhagavad Gita as it is, for a minute he thought that, how could somebody be, how could they know that they know exactly what Krishna is saying? But when he read it, he realized that the Bhagavad Gita was coming from a disciplic succession. And that's why it was so authentic. And Mukundatta Prabhu, he lives in Vrindavan and he travels across the world. He's been trained in classical singing extensively, and he's a very scholarly person. He has been a part of the Shastrik committee for ISKCON GBC, He supports GBC in any Shastric related doubts and questions. And then he's also been a Sanskrit translator and editor for BBT. And he's been a part of many books that BBT has been translating. For example, Gopi Prandan Prabhu had translated many of Goswami's books, so Prabhu has been a part of it. And along with Mukundatta Prabhu, His Grace Sri Murthy Mataji is also here, his wife. There, she's in the back. So please give a very warm welcome for Prabhu and Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Radhe Radhe. Okay. Thank you very much for kindly inviting me and for giving me such a warm welcome. Tonight I was asked to speak something about Srimad Bhagavatam, so we'll try to do our best. As always, we begin with Mangalacharana, so those who know can sing with me. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guroho Shri Utapara Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hare Priye Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Madgavirapi Gopala Swikuryat Kripaya Yadi Tadaiva Sampayah Pitva Hrishayut Tat Priyajanaha. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur prays in this way in the end of his 10th canto commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam. My dear Lord Gopal, only if you accept my words to be your cows will they give sweet milk and please your pure devotees. So I have to pray in the same way. I thought it would be nice to read something that we generally don't hear very much, but it's in glorification of Srimad Bhagavatam. So kindly repeat. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram chaiva narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet. This Srimad Bhagavatam is compared to be the sun which has arisen after the departure of Lord Krishna, bringing along with him all karma and gyan, dharma, and anything auspicious. It leaves this world in the Kali Yuga gradually. But this Srimad Bhagavatam has been left to stay here in order to give us light, those of us who have lost our vision because of the darkness of this age. So in Canto 2, Chapter 7, I'm going to read from texts 51 through 53. It says, Idam Bhagavatam nama yanme bhagavadoditam sangraho yam vibhuti nam tvametad vipudikuro. This is Lord Brahma, the engineer of this universe, speaking to his son, Narad Muni. And what does he say? He says, O Narad, this science of God, Srimad Bhagavatam, was spoken to me in summary by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and it was spoken as the accumulation of his diverse potencies. Please expand this science yourself. And then in text number 52, he also says, Yatha haro bhagavati nranam bhaktir bhavishyati sarvatmanyakhiladhare iti sankalpya varnaya. That means, please describe the signs of Godhead with determination and in a manner by which it will be quite possible for the human being to develop transcendental devotional service unto the personality of Godhead Hari, the supersoul of every living being, and the summum bonum, source of all energies. In his purport, Srila Prabhupada writes here, Srimad Bhagavatam is the philosophy of devotional service and the scientific presentation of man's relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Prior to the age of Kali, there was no need for such a book of knowledge to know the Lord and his potential energies, but with the beginning of the age of Kali, human society gradually became influenced by 4 sinful principles, namely, illegitimate connection with women, intoxication, gambling, and unnecessary killing of animals. Because of these basic sinful acts, man gradually became forgetful of his eternal relation with God. Therefore, man became blind, so to speak, to his ultimate goal of life. The ultimate goal of life is not to pass a life of irresponsibility like the animals and indulge in a polished way of the 4 animal principles, namely eating, sleeping, fearing, and mating. For such blind human society in the darkness of ignorance, Srimad Bhagavatam is a torchlight to see things in a proper perspective. Therefore, it was necessary to describe the science of God from the very beginning or from the very birth of the phenomenal world. As we've already explained, Srimad Bhagavatam is so scientifically presented that any sincere student of this great science will be able to understand the science of God simply by reading it with attention or simply by regularly hearing it from the bona fide speaker. Everyone is hankering after happiness in life, but in this age, the members of human society, blind as they are, do not have proper vision that the personality of Godhead is the reservoir of all happiness because he's the ultimate source of everything. Janmadyasya yataha. Happiness in complete perfection without hindrance can be achieved only by our devotional relationship with him. And it is only by his association that we can get free of distressful material existence. Even those who are after the enjoyment of this material world can also take shelter of the great science of Srimad Bhagavatam, and they will be successful in the end. Narad is therefore requested or ordered by his spiritual master to present this science with determination and in good plan. Narad was never advised to preach the principles of Bhagavatam to earn a livelihood. He was ordered by his spiritual master to take the matter very seriously in a missionary spirit. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So Sridhar Swami has commented on this verse that Brahmaji tells Narad Muni, determine yourself to speak Srimad Bhagavatam with consideration as I've described it to you, so as to emphasize the pastimes of Lord Hari. Thus, human beings will develop pure devotional service. By saying this, he means not killing devotional service by just speaking of general spiritual truth. Usually this is what we find. Jiva Goswami goes on to say, the goal of the work is bhakti. It's excellent because of the descriptions of the pastimes filled with the Sarup Shakti. And then he quotes, let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the son of Vyasadev, Shukdev Goswami, who destroys all sin, and who, though fixed in his own bliss with no distractions, became attracted to the pastimes of Krishna, and mercifully spread the Bhagavatam, which describes Krishna and reveals the rasa of his pastimes. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur adds his comments. He says, but in front of me, your guru, you should follow one rule in distributing it. You should speak it so that there will arise devotion in men who will be born in Kali Yuga. Bhavishyati stands for bhavet. It's a potential form. It should be so. It is directed to the people of Kali Yuga because it has been said, Nashtra drishamesha puranarko dhunoditaha, which we've already paraphrased a few moments ago. This Purana has now arisen for those who have lost their sight. The word harao, meaning to Hari, indicates that the Lord attracts the mind by prema, and the Lord takes away material life. Bhagavati, or to Bhagavan, indicates that this form is easy to worship or blissfully worshipped, since he possesses all wonderful qualities. The Lord is the essence of all forms, Sarvatmani. By devotion to him, all types of worship are perfected. By devotion to him, all desires are achieved, even material desires. Akhiladhare. He should utter a statement of sankalpa. Starting from today, I will describe devotion to the Lord. I might as well conclude this chapter because there's one more verse here. He says, the Lord's activities in association with his different energies should be described, appreciated, and heard in accordance with the teachings of the Supreme Lord. If this is done regularly with devotion and respect, one is sure to get out of the illusory energy of the Lord. So, this is a small statement about the potency of and the glory of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Just by hearing this Bhagavatam every single day, everything that is troublesome to the heart can be gradually destroyed to nil. And devotional service is solidly established, not as a matter of faith, not as a matter of tradition or riti rivaz or sentiment or any of the other ways that people might take this literature. If we hear every day from the proper source, then we will see that this is actually factual. And it's a stunning epiphany to see that whatever we hear about in the Bhagavatam is actually a fact. Because really most of us don't actually believe it. We come here and we render official service. Some people treat it as a social club. Some people treat it as gyan. Some people treat it as sense gratification. They just want to eat. And there's many different ways, depending on our consciousness, that we might take this satsanga that goes on here every Sunday afternoon. But the real thing is to hear. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna also tells Arjuna, Maya sakta manapartha yogam yunjanman ashraya asamshayam samagram mam yatha jnasasi tat shrinu. As much as you want to know about God fully and without any doubt, you just hear. Nyasasi. Tat Shrinu. So, this Bhagavatam is especially meant for that. And we therefore put so much stress on the Srimad Bhagavatam. Nashta prayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya. We have to serve the Bhagavatam every day. There's two ways to serve the Srimad Bhagavatam. What are those? Or rather, there are two manifestations of the Srimad Bhagavatam. What are they? There's a literary manifestation of Bhagavatam, which is the book. And then there's the personal manifestation of Bhagavatam, which is the person whose life embodies its teachings. The person who personifies Bhagavatam. That person who is described in the beginning of the Bhagavatam. Yaswanubhavam akila shruti saramekam. Whose own personal experience is the essence of all the Shrutis. If you hear Bhagavatam every day, you become such a person. You become a Bhagavata. And that's the purpose of human life. So, this Bhagavatam has been summarized later on in the Bhagavatam, in this canto actually, in 4 verses, which consolidate all the Lord's vibhutis in 4 seed verses. So, this is what Jiva Goswami and other acharyas commenting on this verse have to say. But Srila Prabhupada says that Srimad Bhagavatam is so scientifically presented that any sincere student of this great science will be able to understand the science of God simply by reading it with attention or simply by hearing it from the bona fide speaker. Everyone is hankering after happiness, but in this Kali Yuga, people are blind and don't have the proper vision. So Srimad Bhagavatam is able to supply that vision to us. It's dense darkness, this Kali Yuga. Seems like every day it gets darker and darker. But if we see through the eyes of the Srimad Bhagavatam, that's called Shastra Chakshu, then we can actually get some enlightenment. We can understand who we are, as Prabhupada says here. It awakens a different perspective on life. And this is really what human life is meant for. Labdhastu durlabhamidam bahusam bhavante. We have achieved this rare human birth after how many others? How many? Huh? Yeah, 8.4 million births. Modern science hasn't really defined what a species is, so we can't really say how many species there are biologically. But we can say that there are 8,400,000 different types of bodies that you can take. Each one corresponds to a different kind of consciousness. Krishna says, Karanam gunasangosya sarasat yoni janmasu. We take birth in sattvic environment or in a rajasic or tamasic environment in accordance with the consciousness that we have created and in accordance with the desires that we've pursued, the consciousness that we've cultivated. So there are 8,400,000 different options that we have as spiritual beings. We can select any one of these different types of bodies as we like. But now we've come to the human form of life after so many births. We don't know how many eons we've been wandering from one body to another. So this poet Kabir Das said, Uttama nara deha paya prani isaka hita kachu karale. Try to appreciate that you have a rare window of opportunity here to take advantage of what human life really can afford us. What is it that distinguishes human beings from animals? We eat, animals eat. We sleep, animals sleep. We mate, animals mate. We fight, animals fight. So what is it that distinguishes us? What's the one thing that we can do that animals cannot do? Only one thing. We can understand. We can come to sattva guna. Animals cannot come to sattva guna. Once you come to sattva guna, the mode of light or goodness, knowledge, awareness, then you can understand what is dharma. Dharmasya hina pashubhis samana. Without this understanding of dharma, then we were no better than animals. As Prabhupada said in his purport, human beings are trying to polish these 4 animal propensities of eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. What does he say here? Yeah, he says, the ultimate goal of life is not to pass a life of irresponsibility like the animals and indulge in a polished way in the 4 animal principles. We have very neat, clean house. We have a nice, comfortable car. Prabhupada said the animals are running around on their 4 legs looking for someone to mate with, something to eat, or someone to eat, because they do that also. And they get into fights because they can't control their senses. They're by nature tamasic and rajasic, just like many of us. And of course they sleep when they're exhausted by these activities. But we run around and do the same 4 activities in a very polished way on 4 wheels instead of 4 legs. So this is not human life, actually. Human life begins when we become responsible and think a little bit soberly, what's my future? In 100 years, where am I going to be? When you get to job, right, they always ask you, where do you picture yourself in 5 years? Or where do you picture yourself in 100 years, Baba? Where have you come from? Who's really your family? What are you doing here? Who are you? We have no idea of any of these things. And we don't even care. We're so intoxicated by the demands, the constant demands of our minds and senses, that we can't even think straight about this. We can't even think about it. And of course, maybe it's more so in India than here. You're not allowed. I mean, I've lost count of the number of NRIs that I've spoken to who have told me that if we had stayed in India, we would never have been allowed to take to Krishna consciousness. It's a fact. Family is opposing, the employer is opposing, the government is opposing, the media is opposing. You practically have no chance. Here at least we have some chance, and we should take advantage of it while it lasts. I was in Seattle about 30 years ago. This was when Microsoft Corporation was very big. More than 30 years, actually, almost 40 years now. And we were preaching to a bunch of IT engineers who were working in Redmond, Washington, headquarters of Microsoft Corporation. IT. And I used to tell them that you people have the system requirements to run this software because you have an innate sense of dharma. Any Indian. You may think that you're overwhelmed by your senses, and in fact you may be overwhelmed by your senses. I won't argue with that. But at least you have some sense that I'm something higher than this. Krishna tells us in Bhagavad Gita, there are 3 modes of nature. What are they? 3 modes of material nature. Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. Anybody here knows this, I think. So, Urdham gachanti sattvastha, madhe tishtanti rajasaha, jaghanya guna vrittistha, adho gachanti tamasaha. When we're in the mode of ignorance, we go down. We become animals, we become insects. Kiye manu shupashupaki je janamiye. Atava kita patange. Kisne kaha. Vidyapati Thakur. Or karma vipake gata gati puna punaha. Mati rahutva parashange, he says. He's praying to the Lord like this. So many births, I've blown it again and again. I've got this short window of opportunity. I could have become sattvic, but I chose not to do that, and then I lost the opportunity. Maybe I'll become a bird. Maybe I'll become a flying insect. Maybe I'll become an animal. Maybe a human being. But either way, I'm locked up in my karma. It's pretty frightening if you think about it. We don't think about it. We're too distracted to think about it, and nobody allows us to think about it. But at the time of death, everybody gets concerned. Everybody. I took care of my mother until she passed away from this world about 20 years ago. And her lifelong policy was that if I ever get in a situation where they have to keep me alive by tubes and artificial things, don't do that. I don't want that kind of life. That was her, it was written into her advanced health care directive. But when the time came, she had a stroke and she was comatose and she came out momentarily. My elder sister with the power of attorney had to tell her, look, you've always told us this, but if we pull out this plug right now, you're gonna be gone in a few minutes. And so what did my mother do? She changed her lifelong policy on the spot. No, I don't do that. So, we're all more attached than we realize, but our condition of life is no less tenuous than we were told. Unfortunately, we don't realize it. Nalini dalagata jalamati taralam tadvad jivitam atashaya chapalam. Shankaracharya Nekaha. Or Govinda Das Thakur, Kaviraj, he also said, Kamala dala jala, jivana talamala. Life is very, very tenuous. Any minute you can lose it, especially in America. There was one gentleman in Dallas, I had to go to his funeral and console his relatives because he was watching television one night. That's when people had television. Do they still have television? I think they do, because I see these big screens everywhere in people's houses, right where the altar should be. So, he answered his door one night, 10 o'clock in Dallas, and somebody just immediately shot him right in the face. Finished. Ape goli sab samatui. He probably never knew what hit him. So, or you can get carjacked, or you can get the negative report from the doctor that says, hey, your coronary calcium score tells me that you're pretty high in LDL, and you've got to do something because you've got a risk of a heart attack now. Any doctors here? You know what I'm talking about. So, this is the thing. Anything can take us out, and something always does. Nobody gets out alive here. Everybody is killed. And if you're clinging onto this material body, what does that feel like? To have everything near and dear to you ripped away from you? No choice, but no, sir, sorry, please step this way. It's like the ICE agents, right? In an airport. They tap you on the shoulder, and they're very polite and very professional, but it's understood. You have to go with them. You don't have a choice. So Yamaraj, they're not so polished like that. His agents, Yamadutas. So, Devaki tanya pujita putaha kim same Yamaduta. What if I'm worshiping the son of Devaki, then what can a Yamaduta do to me? One poet wrote like this. All right, so anyway, we have this short window of opportunity that we call human life, and I always give the example of an elevator. When you're in an elevator and the elevator door opens, what do? You get into the elevator or you get out, right? You don't have to do either one, but it's generally understood that somebody has a purpose to fulfill. That's a responsible person. You just, who hangs out in an elevator all day? Somebody's a little bit, loopy only. So in human life, that's what it's like. The door is open for only a few moments. That's what human life is. It's only a few minutes, a few decades. But my experience, at least, somebody else who's over 50 can maybe confirm, but it seems like time speeds up as every year passes, isn't it? Things just get to I told this to Jayadvaita Swami once, and he said, no, time isn't speeding up, you're slowing down. But either way, we're all marching closer and closer to death. It's like that universal form is described in Bhagavad Gita, Virat Rupa. All the soldiers on the battlefield, Arjuna saw them marching into the mouth of this Virat Rupa. No choice. No choice. One-way traffic. And someday it's your turn. We see people all around us, it happens to them, but we're still thinking that, Sheshasthavanam ichanti. Ahani bhutani gachanti hayamalayaha. Sheshasthavanam ichanti Kimascharya mataha puram. Yudhishthira was asked this question, what is the most wonderful thing by this yaksha? You know the story. So this was the answer. Very intelligent answer. Every day we see people marching into the jaws of death and nobody thinks twice about it. Everybody assumes, oh yeah, it always happens to the other guy, until it's your turn. I know one devotee, Dwarkadhish. He was driving home from work in Los Angeles and his heart exploded while he's behind the wheel. And instantly gone, just like that. I mean, why can't that happen to anybody? Especially if you're not watching your cholesterol. So, Jabalagatana mein tapana vyapai tabalaga kari hari seva. While you have the opportunity of a good sound mind and body, you should use it for what you can get out of it. Don't squander the opportunity. People who squander opportunities don't get them again. You forfeit your right to that opportunity. You don't act responsibility with what you've already been given, then you're not going to be given that kind of facility again, and you'll probably be happy. If you prefer canine enjoyment, then that's what you can expect. There's a funny joke about this. One farmer in India, he always wanted to come to America because until they get here, all Indians believe that America's streets are paved with gold and that there's no disease and that there's, it's like a Swargaloka. They seems like they feel that way. And nobody misses Niagara Falls. I'm not even going to ask for a show of hands because I know that nobody misses that. Two places they always go. One is Niagara Falls and the other one is Las Vegas, right? Las Vegas is meant for the Iyengars. They always want to break every rule first, it seems, the Brahmins. So, just like Indriya Tripti, right? That's the real meaning of IT. Or, क्योंकि आजकल अमेरिका में तेलुगु का आक्रमण हो रहा है, तो IT का मतलब है International Telugus. Courtesy Visa Balaji, Chilakuru Balaji. So, anyway, so this farmer always wanted to come to America, and he saw one Jyotish one day, and the Jyotish was telling him, oh, you don't know your future? Let me tell you. You're going to be born in Beverly Hills, California, not far from where I was born. And you will have everything that you require taken care of for you. You don't have to work. You'll have every meal will be prepared to you by your servants, and you will be driven around, chauffeured around Beverly Hills whenever you need to go anywhere. And so many women will adore you. And you're going to have a very pampered life because you're going to take birth in Beverly Hills as a toy poodle. On Rodeo Drive, we see them. The young girls, they have these little purses, and they have an even smaller dog sitting inside the purse. I don't know if they have that here, but they have it there. So this is polished animal society, but it is not going to last. You're going to be taken out of here. Mrityu sarva haraschaham, Krishna says. I take everything. I means Krishna in the form of the time factor, kala. Kalosmi, lokakshaya krit pravriddho. I am the one who takes everything away. So, we have this chance now as we're human beings, and we can hear Srimad Bhagavatam attentively and properly. How do we hear Srimad Bhagavatam properly? I should ask the question, from whom do we hear Srimad Bhagavatam attentively? Professional kathakar? Nice musical presentation. You know what we call that in English? We call it infotainment. That's what it's called. It's actually entertainment. There's information conveyed, but people who go to listen to these things are in the spirit that they're not interested in the information. They're interested in the entertainment. So it's in entertainment, really. And the person who's speaking, so-called speaking Bhagavatam, because Prabhupada mentions this at the end of his purport, those people also are not really too interested in the subject matter. They want the dakshina. So everybody's after animalistic activities in the name of dharma, artha, kama, moksha, and then they're not going anywhere. That's called horizontal movement. Or in other words, madhye tishtanti rajasaha, as we've quoted already. But if they're sinful, and the default in today's world is that you will be sinful, it's just understood. All you have to do is fit in to modern society, and you're going down, because that's where it's going. You have to swim upstream, my friends. There's no easy way around this. And it's a true friend who tells you this. So Srimad Bhagavatam has this message. We find it's repeated in so many ways. Rishabhadev tells us about these things in the 5th canto. Narad Muni is telling us these. Brahma here is telling Narad Muni. You should share this knowledge, especially because you have heard this knowledge. Everybody here has some idea of this knowledge. Many of us here have embraced these principles and are sincerely trying to practice bhakti yoga while we can. I was going to say this, yeah. When I was in Seattle many years ago, they printed up one of these cards that said, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Then there was a caption underneath. What did the caption say? Please chant this mantra while you can. You're supposed to put 2 and 2 together. So, yeah, this is the thing. We don't have all the time in the world. The clock is ticking. We're all seeing more and more gray hairs every day, unless we're under 20. And, there's going to be the big door is going to slam shut one day. And there's no more choices after that. You can't say that I made some bad choices and, I had the wrong, I wasn't encouraged enough. There's no excuses. You just have to go wherever the karma takes you. The nice verse is there from the Supashitas. What does it say? Dhanani bhumau pashavashta goshthe nari grahadvare janaha smashane dehaschitayam paraloka marge karmanugo gachati jiva ekaha. What does it mean? Your money will stay in the bank. Your car will stay in the garage. Your wife will come as far as the front gate. If she knows religious principles, she'll not attend your funeral. Your friends will. Your body will go further than that. Where does your body go? To the chitta. And the body is burned up. But you, my friend, you're going on alone. If you walked upon the path of karma, if you have accumulated even one karmic reaction, you're going on alone. Where you're going, I can't say. Neither can you. So we have to think about this. Death is real. And Srimad Bhagavatam is Hari Leelamrita Vachaha. It is the deathless nectar of the Leela of Lord Hari. This is the first point. I mean, in this text 52, I'm mainly talking about Yatha harau bhagavati vranam bhaktir bhavishyati sarvatmani akhiladhares iti sankalpya varnaya. He's telling Narad Muni to preach Srimad Bhagavatam. And do so in such a way that it's possible for human beings to develop transcendental loving service unto Lord Hari. And Sridhar Swami, as we heard from his commentary, he says that this especially means you should emphasize the leelas of the Lord. It means you should come to that stage where you actually have a taste that you can appreciate the Lord's pastimes. Most of us are not even at that stage yet. We've got a lot of work to do. And we don't have a lot of time to do it. But this is expected, and Bhagavatam is meant for this. So there are 12 cantos of the Srimad Bhagavatam. First canto is introducing the basic principles, preliminary subject matter, preliminary information. Bhagavatam really begins with the second canto, 10th chapter, in fact. The real content of the Bhagavatam begins in this second canto. So this verse that we're looking at here from chapter 7, these 3 verses I quoted, is also just dealing basically with preliminary information about the Bhagavatam. But then there's 3rd canto, 4th canto. Each one has its own theme and content. And then we come to the massive 10th canto, which is the real, the pith of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And the amount of nectar that is available in this 10th canto is hardly conceivable to those who have not gone through the previous 9. That's why we encourage, and that's why Brahma here is encouraging. He's encouraging his own son, Narad Muni. You kindly share this message of Srimad Bhagavatam with others. I was going to say, those of you from India, which I think is pretty much everybody in this room except for me, looking around, it doesn't seem, maybe there's 1 or 2 somewhere. But you have some sense of dharma, even if your sense of dharma is skewed or perverted or, partial. But that puts you above everybody in Pyongyang, North Korea. It puts you above everybody in Kabul, Afghanistan. They think dharma means to kill as many Americans infidels as you can. Tamasic faith, Rajasic faith, most of the world is absorbed in this. Indians alone have special blessing from the Supreme Lord, who happens to appear every time in India. So take advantage of that. Appreciate that. Be grateful for that. You think you have problems now. Wait until you're so covered over that you can't even recognize that there is such a thing as a soul. And you can get yourself into that consciousness. All you have to do is nothing. And you'll be carried down into the vortex of Maya. And it's automatic. Like smoke covers a fire, or like dust covers a mirror. A little worse than that, like smoke covering a fire. Even worse than that, like a womb covering an embryo. We have different levels of covering of our consciousness, our eternal consciousness. And if we're not careful as human beings, we can lose this appreciation. So act on it and do good for others. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave an open order, especially for all Indians. What did he say? Bharate bhumite hoilo manusya janma jar janma shartha kari korupar upakar. First, assimilate this science of Srimad Bhagavatam and then do something for others. Don't be a kripana. What is a kripana? A cripple-minded person, small-minded person. Be a brahmana instead. These are two opposite things. A kripana just thinks about himself, maybe his extended family or society, but that's it. Only sense gratification. No higher purpose. This is like animals. They're all kripanas. A human being should not be like that. Human beings should think about others. So make yourself perfect, assimilate Srimad Bhagavatam, and share Srimad Bhagavatam with others. Jare dekhe tare kaha Krishna upadesh. Amara jnai guru hayat tare desh. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave this order for everyone. So, this is why in ISKCON, Srila Prabhupada always emphasized the distribution of Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam. This is why we, first of all, assimilate Srimad Bhagavatam so that we can be inspired to share it with others. There's not going to be, you can't give what you don't have. Right? So think about it. Let's all say it out loud. You can't give what you don't have. Say it again. Think about it. So hear the Srimad Bhagavatam, take it deeply inside, and share it with others when your heart has matured by reading Srimad Bhagavatam. This is the purpose of ISKCON, actually. It's not just to give us some recreation every Sunday or some infotainment or some prasadam. I mean, that's all there. Fine. I'm not discouraging. But this is a movement meant to benefit humanity. And the best way to do that is to share spiritual knowledge, because who else is doing so? Not many. Very few. I don't see any other movement organized internationally with this agenda. To share the wisdom of Srimad Bhagavatam through realized association. Persons who are practicing, seriously practicing. So, Srila Prabhupada intended us to do this. This is the purpose of ISKCON. And particularly he stressed on book distribution. He said books are the basis, preaching is the essence, utility is the principle, purity is the force. What's the basis again? Books are the basis. Doesn't that sound a lot like what Vyasadeva said in Vedanta Sutra? Shastra yonitvat? I think so. Shastra yonitvat. Means everything, the authority, everything, it's coming from Shastra only. So hear from Shastra. Yashastra vidhamutsrijya vartate kamakarataha nasasiddhim avapnoti nasukham na param gatim. Krishna ne kaha aisa Bhagavad Gita mein. Key that if you just reject the Shastra or neglect the Shastra, it's the same thing, then you're not going to get, you won't be happy, you won't be successful, you certainly won't get the supreme destination. So assimilate Shastra and share it with others. This is the purpose. This is the reason that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave that instruction. All right, so these are a few things we can think about these verses. I'm just going to read the last one again. He says, the Lord's activity in association with his different energies should be described, appreciated, and heard in accordance with the teachings of the Supreme Lord. If this is done regularly with devotion and respect, one is sure to get out of the illusory energy of the Lord. Don't think that Maya is insurmountable. It's insurmountable if you don't surrender. That's a fact. But it is not insurmountable. You just have to surrender. And the beginning of surrender, you open the book. Bhagavad Gita as it is, we always joke, just as it is. Leave it as it is. Shrink wrapped in everything. We've seen it. This is the attitude. Because nobody reads any books now, except for Facebook. But you're sure to get out of this illusory energy if you hear Srimad Bhagavatam carefully and sincerely every day. Just take sincerity and serious effort. All right, I'm going to stop here, but if anybody has any questions or comments, we can discuss.
You can raise your hand so I can give the mic to you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for the wonderful session. Prabhuji, could you please enlighten out of so many Vedas, Upanishads and Puranas, why should I read only Srimad Bhagavatam?
Very good question.
Thank you.
Srimad Bhagavatam itself discusses this, and other Puranas also discuss this. Nigama kalpataroho galitam phalam. Srimad Bhagavatam is compared, if you view the entirety of the Vedic canon as a tree, a desire tree full of so many fruits, but Srimad Bhagavatam is the ripened fruit of that tree. There are many different scriptures that we can study. There's many different Puranas. They're all very beneficial for different people in different circumstances. But for all people, there is one thing which is considered to be the supreme dharma, and that is devotional service. And therefore, Srimad Bhagavatam emphasizes that devotional service, exclusively emphasizes that devotional service. That's what makes Srimad Bhagavatam the ripened fruit, as it were, of all this whole tree of Vedic literature. That's why we emphasize Srimad Bhagavatam so much. Not just us. This is not Bengali dogma or Gaudiya Vaishnava Siddhanta only. Every Vaishnava, Vallabha Sampradaya also is worshipping Srimad Bhagavatam. Every Vaishnava will respect the Srimad Bhagavatam for this reason. Because out of all the Puranas, 18 Puranas, only one of them is the Mahapurana, and that is Bhagavatam, which deals with completely transcendental subject matter. Everything else that the Puranas or any other Shastra discusses, it's within the realms of karma and gyan, which means it deals with temporary things. Fine, you have to eat also, sure. You have to deal with this world. There's no criticizing that. But you have an identity beyond it. And only Srimad Bhagavatam is really focusing on that. So that makes it so valuable. I should say so invaluable. It's priceless. Is that okay? Just in a very short answer. Jai Shri Shri Radha Madhava ki jai. Nitai Gaur Sundar ki jai. Jagannath Balaram Sutra Devi ki jai. Okay.
Krishna, thank you for the very truthful and nice presentation. My question was, when we hear Srimad Bhagavatam, does it make a difference whether we're in person or if we're hearing online? And what are the benefits and maybe drawbacks?
Yeah. Everybody heard the question? When we hear Srimad Bhagavatam, does it make a difference whether we hear in person or whether we hear online? Is that what you're asking? They're the same. It's like asking, is it better to hear a person speaking or is it better to read the book? They're the same. It doesn't make much difference. But still, Srila Prabhupada did instruct us that we should read his books. In fact, he said we should read these books for an hour every day. When I talk to people, it's like that's just way over the top for most people. But at least you can read one verse every day. Maybe if you're adventurous, you can read one chapter every day. But even if you can't read anything, you can put in your earbuds, right? You can listen to someone speaking. It's the same thing. Shravanam is the process. Shravanam means hearing. Okay? Anything else? Okay. Sundarananda.
Thank you, Prabhu, for a wonderful class. So, we know Srimad Bhagavatam is translated by many different authors. So what is special about Prabhupada Srimad Bhagavatam that we should read?
Okay, what makes Srila Prabhupada's Srimad Bhagavatam special? Look at the result. This is the point that Prabhupada made in his purport. When we hear, we should hear from a person who's serious about this process. Somebody who has a missionary spirit. Not from an entertainer, not from a professional reciter, not from a scholar, not from a politician. It has to be from somebody who really is sincerely trying to serve the authority. When a person adopts that spirit and repeats what he's been taught in that spirit, that has effect. Why else is it that there are so many editions, maybe Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita, either one, all over the world, and they don't make a person Krishna conscious? This one edition of Bhagavad Gita as it is has made hundreds and thousands of people Krishna conscious. Same principle applies to Srimad Bhagavatam. I'm one of them. I read so many Bhagavad Gitas before, and I couldn't understand them, frankly. I really just couldn't understand them because they didn't make sense. They only make sense if you're following the Paramparagat Siddhanta. And that's what Srila Prabhupada does. That's why he gives the original text, the word-for-word translation, then he gives English, and then he gives a commentary, and that commentary is not his also. It's basically paraphrasing all of those commentaries of his predecessors. Evam parampara praptam. That is the difference. In these books we have some special Shakti that makes people Krishna conscious, and we don't see that result from other books. It's not been my observation, at least. I'm not seeing it. So, I would say it's all in the Bhaktivedanta purports, frankly. And it sounds, again, like one of those amazingly conceited statements, that Prabhupada actually did say that his purports are more important than the verses. And it just seems outrageous that somebody could do that. But you read them, and then the verses make complete sense. You look back, if you can read Sanskrit, you look and see what the predecessor acharyas have said, and he's just paraphrasing what they've said, so it's not something he's invented either. It is parampara. That means it's transparent via media. He's a transparent via medium. He's just repeating the message without adding anything, without subtracting anything. Therefore, it has the effect. Just like if a man is potent and a woman is fertile, their combination will produce fruits. So it's like that. The person who's hearing has to be submissive and serious, sincere. The person who's speaking has to be completely transparent and trying in a humble service mood. And then the combination is very powerful. It's like nothing else. It makes it changes lives. And I don't see that happening with other editions, frankly. So everybody, I'm humbly requesting you all, if you have not yet read Srimad Bhagavatam, please do so. There will be a table outside, I hope, and they will be offering you this great, rare opportunity. You've come 90% of the way. Out of 8,400,000 species, you took birth as a human being. And of all the places you could have taken birth in this Earth planet, you took birth in Bharatvarsha. And in all the Bharatiya Log who are coming here and looking for money, you still have some degree of interest in Dharma and Krishna Bhakti. And you've come in contact with Prabhupada and his books. Now all you have to do is expend a small amount of energy to pick the book up and open it and read it and consider what it says. That's a very small price to pay, considering what are the other options. Other options, you finish your life wasted, and then you get another body that we don't know what it will be. We already quoted Vidyapati Thakur on that. So this is a special opportunity. Please do not miss it. Please. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Thank you very much. Yes, so please see us outside. There's a book table. If you don't have a Bhagavatam set, if you have it, take another set, or you can find a friend whom you can gift it. And we also send these sets all over the world, where people are just in need and they don't have the money. So if you can also sponsor a set, we distribute it in India in a lot of these, remote villages and tribal areas. We regularly send Bhagavatams there. So please, you can take one set for yourself or you can sponsor.
Let me tell you something further about this. Every winter, because Vrindavan gets too cold, and I can't handle that because I'm from Southern California, I go to South India, mainly in rural Tamil Nadu, and we're going to various villages. And don't think that this effort goes in vain. People are very, very appreciative. We did one program in Satangulam. Many Tamil people here might know where that is, in Tirunelveli district. Small village, and in fact it's a Christian village as well. So we were allowed the use of one Mariamman temple to conduct our program. And even there was a church next door broadcasting their missionary stuff. Somehow somebody worked magic on them and got them to give permission to use their sound system. So we were using the Christian sound system and broadcasting this Hare Krishna program throughout the whole village of Satangulam. They call it Shaitangulam, Satan's pond. So, in the beginning there were just maybe 30 or 40 curious villagers that just, what is this? And let me hear. They put my poster all over town, right? Anything a white guy says is worshipable in these quarters. So, they came to check it out. But because the whole village was hearing, even if they weren't there, they were hearing. And they kind of stunned them that, wait a minute, we haven't heard this before. We think that going to the temple means you take some pongal, you go to the koil, you take pongal, and you go home. But, by the end of the program, there were 300 or 400 villagers there. They came to see, what is this? They were so drawn. And one man said, we're Hindus, we want to be Hindus, but nobody's ever told us what it means to be a Hindu. We don't have any clue. And they all took books, very enthusiastically. And we have seen in the years since that event, this is maybe 10 years ago, from Satangulam, these really interested people, they bought their own center there in the town, so there's an ISKCON outpost there now, and they've sent their people to other villages nearby, and it spread like an octopus everywhere. So, this book distribution is very powerful. It changes lives. People who were previously very sinful, they adopt these principles and they become very sattvic and happy. It changes the course of history. It does. And you can be a part of that. So I'm just telling you from my own personal experience. This is what I've seen. One man that I preached to in Seattle, I remember I told you, International Tamil. That's another definition of IT. So he went back to his village and he started preaching like this, and then now there's at least a dozen villages all going with Hare Krishna Mahamantra Srimad Bhagavatam, and they really appreciate. They really do, because villagers in particular, they haven't lost all their samskars yet, and they haven't been, contaminated by the multinationals or the communists or the Abrahamic faith. So, they really, really appreciate it. It has an effect. You should know this. So you can sponsor book distribution like that. Arabic books, here we also have. Farsi books we also have, I hope. Yeah. So, these books will go in places where we can't go, but they have an effect. In Los Angeles, they call it Tehrangeles. You ever heard that? Tehrangeles. Because so many Iranians there, after the revolution of 1979, they settled in Los Angeles. So these people, out of curiosity, they see a book, one of Prabhupada's books written in their own language, Farsi, and they just get very interested because they're pious people. They get very enlivened by that. And they come to our temple and they tell us that we've never heard anything like this. This is so fascinating. This is real knowledge. We want to order. How many cases can we order to take back to Iran with us? They say like this. I don't know if I'm allowed to be talking like this. But my point is this, that your contributions or your sponsoring this book distribution, it really has effects in diverse places throughout the world. And only ISKCON is doing this. If you want me to answer your question in another way, I don't know anybody else's Srimad Bhagavatam edition that's gone worldwide like this, in every major language of the world, including Chinese. So, yeah, it's a very glorious and very rare opportunity. You should try and take advantage of it while you can, because who knows how many of us will be here next week. Anything can happen, right? We discussed it already. Okay, Hare Krishna.